I'll let kind of Rebecca tell her story or.
Thank you. And thank you guys for taking this story because it was hard to get someone to listen. So for me, I've been doing a lot of research into the data centers as a result of the Sand Springs data or the Spring Data Center going in Osage County. And I was wondering why the Osage Nation, because it's on reservation land, I believe, had not been raising a big fuss about that. And then the people who are within the data center issue there actually messaged me about Rebecca's case and asked if I could help her in some way. And I wasn't sure how I could, but I told him I have a big mouth and I'm really mad and I don't like bullies and I'm here to fight for the people with the people. So that's kind of how we landed here. I was in Pasca last night telling them about Rebecca's story too, and everybody there is concerned because they're wanting to put a data center in next to a school and next to tribal housing, which of course, those people can't always just up and move. You've got teachers threatening to leave the city. There was a pregnant teacher there.
Oh, you muted. You muted. What happened?
That's weird. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, that was strange. But there was teachers crying at the meeting and everything. And so for me, this is concerning because once I realized the data centers were going into our area, I started researching the effects that would have on the health and the environment. And I've looked up a lot of this already that Rebecca's going to tell you about that happened to her. And it had me concerned. And my thoughts are is if these data centers don't care about their employees' health and well-being, they're definitely not going to care about the land or the people around them either and their health and well-being. So I wanted to spread the word and let everybody know. A lot of people think these data centers may bring money in. The jobs don't stay. The jobs are out-of-state contractors. Mostly my husband's an unlimited electrical contractor, and they're bringing in electricians from other states because we don't have enough here, obviously. So it's not necessarily that they're creating jobs, and they won't really leave a lot of jobs when they're done either. So a lot of what they're telling us is a farce, and they're kind of inflating it and convoluting it to try to pitch everybody on it because land here is cheap and they're coming in here and offering more money in order to get the land. And they think that because, we're rural or we're small or maybe because we're 50th in education, we're not intelligent enough to figure out
Sorry.
a scam when we see one.
I mean,
yeah. So I'm a mad mama bear and I don't like bullies. And so whenever I heard Rebecca's story, I was kind of shocked, first of all, but I will let her tell what happened to her. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add to that.
yeah, we really fascinating. Like we're reading all these things, we're like, oh my goodness. But like Elisa said, no, like we really want to hear from you, right? Because we don't want to overstep. We want to hear your story.
All right. So to basically just start off on what happened in July, I believe it was July 16th of last year, 2025. I was forced to actually go out to Google to work. My office is actually located about, I want to say approximately 5 miles at the time from where Google was located. And my boss at the time actually forced me to go out there because I had to train a account manager. So at the time, my title was a human resource generalist. So within my role, it is not my responsibility or my duties to train somebody in operations. And that's what a account manager is considered, as operations. So I wasn't even supposed to be out there that day to begin with. So I went out there that morning, arrived and everything, and whenever I got there, it was misty as can be, and I was just like, oh, like my allergies, this is what this fog has to be. I remember looking over at one of my coworkers, the account manager at the time, on who I was supposed to be training, and I asked her, I was like, hey, like, are your allergies messed up today? And she was like, yeah, this is foggy out here. And I was like, oh, this is weird. So to fast forward, basically, what happened was we had a security officer that went out there and was doing rounds and discovered that there was a leak in a pipe and it was blowing out this mist. So then they called it in, and I was dressed for a office role, which means I did not have on the proper shoes to go out on the floor at the time. And so I wasn't able to actually go out there immediately to investigate it. So she went out there, the account manager that I was training, she went out there to look at it along with some other people. And then they decided to go ahead and do a evacuation. It was at that time, whenever I was following around another security officer to evacuate the building, that's whenever I for sure got exposed to it for quite a bit. I want to say it took us about 10 minutes that I was directly in the mist, in the fog, trying to clear everybody out of the building for their safety. Once we got everybody out of the building, they Google, and then what was that construction company, Fortis, they were not letting their employees go back in, basically what happened. And so they told everybody that they could have the day off, or if they were able to work from home, they got to work from home. It was at that time, so my past medical, my past history, I actually used to be a medic. And so I've actually been through the training with FEMA. IMSA was the company that I used to work for. So they put us through some intensive training on everything that happens, especially in situations like this. So I knew it was not safe to re-enter the building because they did not do an air quality test, especially in the area that I was going into. So I called my boss, Buffy Parker, at the moment. That was my boss. And I told her, hey, I do not feel safe going back into the building. And she told me that I was being dramatic. And today I was not a medic. I am a human resource generalist today. And I am to go back into the building. And so I asked her, can I work outside of the building? She basically told me no, that you cannot do that. I said, so if I refuse to go back in, what's going to happen? She said, leave my laptop, my work phone, and any other work equipment on the desk, and she'll take that as my automatic resignation. And so I went back inside of the building, and then I was inside of that building for 8.5 hours. And they never once came through the area that I was in to do an air quality test. They did one later on that evening. I forget what time, it's in the email, but that was after they've had it all vented out. And then that's when the air quality test actually passed. A little backstory on that leak, though, is that leak was actually reported the day before on July 15th, that there was a leak, and Google and Fortis both ignored the fact that there was a leak. So the office that I was in constantly, for the 8.5 hours that I was out there, minus the time that we had to evacuate, it was already filled up with this refrigerated coolant. And so later on that evening, I went to the ER. My blood pressure, it was 100, don't quote me on this, it was like 186 over, it was 186 or 176, I can't remember exactly. Over 120 something. So it's basically stroke level. Whenever they put the SpO2 on me, which reads how much oxygen is in your body, I saw that it was at 100%. For somebody who is on room air, you're not supposed to have 100%. And so that right there tells me that whatever I was exposed to has binded to my hemoglobins, which gave us a false reading of what my oxygen levels were. So your hemoglobins are the red blood cells that are in your body. And so whenever I saw that and the nurse saw that, that's whenever we both knew that I was basically in trouble. And so she took me back to the room. They did blood work. The blood work did show that it was in my bloodstream. It was in my body. And my heart, it was tachycardia and having irregular rhythms as well. And so they put me off, I believe it was for a solid week. And then whenever I went to my PCP, per the directions that the ER doctor said to do, they evaluated my heart. Sorry, I was trying to think of words. Words are hard. They evaluated my heart and said to go ahead and keep me off a little longer. And then they placed me on a heart monitor, which, that at the time revealed that I was still having palpitations, tachycardia, and irregular heartbeats as well. And so then I've been trying to get a hold of workers' comp this whole time to let them know, like, hey, I need to go to your doctors instead of Cherokee Nation's doctors. And so finally, so keep in mind this happened in July, and then in October, that is whenever they actually got me into a urgent care. During that visit of the urgent care, that is whenever the doctor was listening to my lungs and my heart, and it said, you need to go see a pulmonariologist. And I said, okay. So then they could not get me into a pulmonariologist, and workers' comp told me that there was no neurologist that was wanting to touch me. And so I went to a pulmonariologist in December, and then I went to a cardiologist in November. So that was the soonest that they could get me into anything. And all this happened in July. Ever since this incident has happened, I've had issues swallowing. I haven't been sleeping at night. I've had issues at night breathing. During the daytime, I have issues breathing and everything as well. Swallowing food is very hard for me to do as well. So I can do soups and, things like that. I attempt to eat solid foods, but it takes me a minute to actually eat solid foods. So fast forward to the pulmonariologist. We did some tests and everything. And after some tests, I never actually had asthma. I just had seasonal asthma or allergies where I just had to use a inhaler. And I only had to use an inhaler maybe 10 puffs, if that, a whole year. Since this chemical exposure, I ran through my inhaler within 1 week, in less than a week, actually, to be honest with you. That was how often I was using it. So then after we did a test with the pulmonariologist, he went ahead and said that I have full-blown asthma now and then permanent damage to my lungs. And then he went ahead and prescribed some medications. So literally, I wake up in the mornings, I do one inhaler that's, I think it's green and blue. I can't remember the name of the medication. And then I do another inhaler that's basically a steroid. And then I do my albuterol as my emergency inhaler. And then 2 times a day, I have to do a nebulizer of albuterol, which is a breathing machine at home that I put on my face to open up my lungs to actually breathe. And then we just did a sleep study. Well, not a sleep study, but an overnight test, I guess is what you call it, to see what your oxygen levels are. And it dropped way below what was allowed. And now I just discovered this morning at 8 a.m. that I will have to be placed on overnight oxygen. And sorry, I'm trying not to get upset. Whew. And that is just something that I wasn't expecting.
Take your time.
Sorry.
You want me to talk for you for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give her a minute
Sorry.
to catch herself up here. As I was talking to Rebecca, though, she did tell me that she has to go to lung therapy 2 times a week. And last night I was in Pawhuska at the city meeting. I was talking to a lineman there. We were talking about the frequencies that these places give off, the sound pollution that you all may have heard it as being referred to. And the lineman is even aware in his training that he is told to not be in certain boxes for extended periods of time because those frequencies will make you sick. And Rebecca told me when we met before that there were people who were having severe nosebleeds that they couldn't stop. They would have to call the EMTs out to stop them. There were miscarriages by women who worked there. There were people who would pass out unconscious. It can cause nausea and it can cause vomiting. And that is just from the frequencies alone. And they're wanting to put one of these in Pawhuska next to an elementary school and next to tribal housing. So for me, this was kind of a big deal. And the fact that it affected the employees that worked there that way as well too. And I actually talked to another one of the people who was affected by it earlier today, and they're willing to talk to, but they don't want to share their identity. But they're also going through the same lung treatments that she's going through as well, having heart issues, also in their 40s. I just met her the other day on her 41st birthday in person, and she's way too young to have to be dealing with this stuff right now. So I feel like the data centers are liable for this. They're not taking care of their employees, and as a result of it, Rebecca was later terminated after training her replacement and then being told that they were eliminating her position. And the story of her termination is quite interesting, actually. She was probably a lot calmer than I was. I'll let her tell that story, or than I would have been. I probably would have gotten myself into some trouble. She handled it very well. But I'm going to let her continue telling her story now. You ready?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So ever since the chemical exposure, my company held a safety meeting. And on this safety meeting, I honest to God think that they forgot that I was on this safety meeting. And I was actually the safety person for Oklahoma at that. So they're on the safety meeting, and they were talking about how, you know, they were responsible for what happened in Pryor at the Google because they did not have the MSDS book, and they also did not have a evacuation plan just in case this happened. They weren't aware what chemicals were located inside of Google, and they did not have the proper PPE for us. And so they were going over that information. Later on through there, Renee Miller gets on there and she starts talking about how she doesn't think that there was actually something wrong with us and that we just wanted to stay at home and watch Judge Judy and collect a check. With that said, I stayed working full time under strict restrictions. There were a couple of people who were off work because their position that they had at the time could not accommodate their injuries. So Liberty Mutual, the third-party company and everything that's dealing with this, and Renee Miller and then Jason, they were all on there joking around, literally making fun of us that got injured and talking about how they are so anti-workers' comp. It was at that point that I started to record it, and I actually have a recording of this meeting. And they weren't aware that I was recording it until later. Once they found out that I was recording meetings and stuff, and that I seeked out legal counsel for help for workers' comp, it was that next week that they sat in my office and they put me on a PIP, which is a performance improvement plan. So my position, how I started with the company was I'm working on my master's degree for cybersecurity. And so I took this position with GardaWorld as a security officer. I started in October of 2023. And then by January of 2024, I was promoted to a field specialty supervisor. From there, I was promoted in March as a human resource coordinator. And then from a human resource coordinator of July of 2024, I got promoted to a human resource generalist. And the reason why I kept on being promoted up for is because I was inventing ways and creating ways and creating processes for us to do the hiring process and our attendance policy for Google. And so that is what they currently use is what I created. And so they're trying to tell me that I'm not performing on something that I created. Of course, whenever Buffy Parker came on with the company, she came on as a human resource manager. She didn't even last 90 days with the company. She was there for less than 90 days. And she said it was too hard for her, and that was the reason why she quit. And then whenever she came back as a market leader because they did a wrongful termination and discrimination and all this other stuff with the old market leader, which, I mean, that's public knowledge. They just literally did a settlement over that with him. So she came into his position. And so she's been with the company less than, at this time, whenever I got my PIP, like less than a year. And I've been with this company for over 2 years. And she's trying to tell me that I am not doing the process correctly whenever I actually had to help train her on some of her roles and her duties as well. And so anyways, I've never been written up with the company whatsoever. I've actually gotten on-spot bonuses with the company. I I was praised in rooms that I wasn't even, in. And then, even the higher ups, they actually called my parents and they talked to my parents a lot, told them that they were very proud of me. And they said, you must be very proud of your daughter and her work ethics, and she's very smart and everything. But once this chemical leak happened, that's whenever the retaliation and the hostile work environment started. And so whenever I finally collected enough evidence on all of this via my lawyer, that's whenever I filed a hostile work environment up against Buffy and Renee. And then it just so happened that right after I did that, which I have the video, recordings of me doing that and reporting that in, all the emails as well of all this, I got sick in December with a respiratory issue that was actually considered workers' comp. And then I came back in January. The VP of the company, David Bradley, actually wrote in an email that I was missing too many days of work. And, nobody can keep up whenever I am or I am not at the office. And so I actually had to let David know, hey, I don't know what you've been told, but the days that I have missed at the office is actually due to workers' comp. This is not just me not wanting to come to work or anything. Keep in mind, I've been with this company for over 2 years, and not once have I had a vacation with this company because nobody was able to do my job and they could not afford for me to be out. I even had a hysterectomy in December of 2024. Let's see, I had that on a Friday, and that Monday I was literally working from home. I couldn't even be out for a surgery. That was how important I was to this company and the process of what I was doing. So back in December of last year, they hired a new HRG, but they labeled her as a HRC. And then I had to train her. And then as I trained her, please keep in mind, I was supposedly incompetent of doing my job. I trained her, and then once I got her trained up, basically a week after that, they switched my hours around. Instead of 8 to 5, it was 9 to 6. And the reason why that's important is because I could only work 8-hour days and then 40 hours a week per my workers' comp restrictions. And so anyway, I wrote an email asking why my hours were altered for, and I was told because I needed to be at the office because officers needed some uniforms. And I said, okay. So I called, Google, asked them if anybody was coming in for uniforms, and they said no. That is whenever I figured out, they're probably going to term me today. And so to test that theory, I was waiting for Buffy to walk into the office, and I was going to take the CPR dummies out. So as Buffy was walking into the office, I had the CPR dummies with me. And as I was walking out, I opened the door up for her, and then she literally yanked the dummies from my hand and said, hey, let's hold off on doing this. You don't need to teach CPR tomorrow. And because I had orientation to do, I'm so sorry. And so anyway, that was just basically, that's whenever I knew I was being termed. I told her right then, hey, if you're going to term me, let's just do it now. Let's just do this peacefully. And she basically argued, said that we'll have a discussion later and all this other jazz. And so to fast forward through all of this, so we go out through the day, I did whatever. And then I heard, Buffy walk into the training room. And then whenever she walks into the training room, Renee then yells at me, says, hey, Rebecca, can you come into the uniform room? And so I had my personal cell phone setting on what was my desk at the time on the corner face down. And so I got up and I went into the uniform room. Well, as I'm walking to go into the uniform room, the way that the hallway is, you can literally see if somebody is in this hallway. And so as I'm walking into there, there's this, I see Buffy come out of the training room and she goes into my office. So I'm standing right here where I can still see, down the hallway, basically, and then I can see into the uniform room. And then that's whenever Renee calls me into the uniform room. And she says, Can you show me what uniforms need to be handed out? I was like, Renee, they're pulled. Here they are. And she's like, okay. And then about that time, you see Buffy step into the hallway right here that connects with the uniform room, and she just nods her head. So then that's whenever Renee was like, hey, let's go have a conversation in here. And I said, Renee, if you're going to term me, like, let's just do it now. I just give me my paperwork. Let me leave peacefully. Like, I turned in a hostile work environment up against you and Buffy. I am very uncomfortable being here alone with the both of you. I've asked multiple times, throughout the day that I'm not left alone with both of you. But better yet, here I am alone at an office with both of you. And so she keeps on talking to me, and I'm walking backwards now basically into this room. And so as I'm walking backwards into this room, I'm literally forced into a corner of this room. And then they shut the door to this exit out of the room. And then the other one, Renee, shuts the door to this one. So they're literally standing at the doors. And then that's whenever I noticed that Buffy had my cell phone. I requested my cell phone back. It was my personal cell, not my work cell. And she would not give it back to me. It was at that time that I told them, like, hey, just give me my paperwork. If we're separating ways today, just let me go. And they would not give me paperwork. Buffy told me that since I am not on her team, Team Buffy, then I don't need to be a part of the company. And then that's whenever Renee went to her spill about how it was wrong of me to report a hostile work environment up against her and my market leader, and I shouldn't have done that. And that's basically what led to part of my separation from the company today. And then also they are eliminating my position. And so I said, okay, just give me my phone and let me just leave basically. And then I don't know if anybody has ever been like so threatened or afraid as to where you can't hear your surroundings and all you can hear is just your heart beating in your ears. And so that's literally what started to happen because they started talking to me. I honest to God cannot tell you what they were saying at the time to me because I was trying to think, shit, it's two people's words up against my word, basically. If I was to try to hit one to get out of the room, it's going to be, I'm the hostile person. That's why they had to have me there after hours and everything. Both of them literally before this told me, it's our word up against your word. And, the company's going to believe their word over my word. And I'm just like, this was literally all planned out. This was premeditated. And so I'm trying to figure out, what if I get a table and I bust this window that's out behind me? I can get out of the window because I have my keys in my pocket. I can get to my car and I can go to the police station. Or I can just get a table and I can shove it into Renee. And then, I can go out the door by Buffy because I can easily take both of them. Yes, that's not in question. But it was a simple fact of two people's word up against mine. And I didn't want to have charges placed up against me because two people were saying that I was hostile whenever that actually was not the issue. And so I was trying to think of a way on how to escape without being harmed. And then that was whenever everything just kicked in and actually hit me. And I, looked at him and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm uncomfortable. I need to go. Let me out of this room. And Buffy literally took her foot. She kicked it up against the door and she just moved her head to the side. What are you going to do? Basically come at me. And so that's whenever I started to take steps towards her. And then that's where she realized something probably is about to happen. And so I told her, I was like, please just give me my cell phone. Let me leave peacefully and let me be on my way. And then that's whenever Renee just laughed and was just like, ha ha, Rebecca, you didn't get to record this. It's our word up against yours on what happened today. All this other stuff. And then that's whenever Buffy gave me my cell phone and she told me, you need to leave peacefully. And I literally looked at her and I said, I will be leaving peacefully. I was like, you two are the ones who have not been peaceful through this whole experience on what has happened. And so that's whenever I left. I got to my vehicle and then I literally haven't been back to the office since that happened. An interesting thing that I forgot to tell you about is whenever I knew that I was being separated, I told you that I put my cell phone on top of my laptop, the key and all the cards was under my laptop, so that way if they lifted up my laptop, the keys wouldn't fall off. They could say they had keys to the office or anything. Yeah. I totally forgot to tell you, the next day they actually had the locks changed and told the locksmith that they had to change the locks because whenever they came back into the office that morning, the keys were sitting on my desk and they were not there the night before.
So they're not keeping up with things. Then
Yes.
is what it is. It sounds like par for the course.
Yes, and all my keys were turned in. And in order for you to lock this building, you have to have a key to physically lock it to go out. So I couldn't have left my keys and then went out the door.
Yeah, that wouldn't be possible if you have to lock it like a deadbolt lock. Unless you're like a ninja or Spider-Man and you haven't
I
told
have
us.
special skills, apparently.
And what was leaking was the R410A. So I don't know if R410A gives you superhuman powers to walk through walls or not, but it definitely,
Right? You're okay.
it definitely will cause vision issues, memory issues, because you told me you had short-term and long-term memory loss, breathing issues, heart issues, and exhaustion. So these are the same symptoms that I have gotten from both Rebecca and the other person I spoke with earlier today that is willing to go on the record, but just incognito. And I have one more victim that wants to speak as well, too. We haven't been able to catch up yet, though, but I do know there were, how many victims were there that you're aware of that day?
So there were multiple companies out there because that was the Google that was being built.
Okay.
And so the last meeting that I was in, there was about 60 names that were listed that I was counting that was on a list.
Okay.
But with my company, we went through it the other day. I can't remember
probably
exactly.
about 10, around about 7 to 10.
Oh, for my company, no, there was like 13 or 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had 11 hospitalized and 4 or 5 treated on site.
Yes.
Does that sound about right?
Yes. I'll have to. If you want me to bring up that email, I can. But yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I know she's taken such great notes and documentation. It makes it so nice and easy to track everything. So she's great at her details, even if the memory is not as great as it used to be. But this has robbed her of her career that she planned on going into cybersecurity, because now she's not able to do that. And you also told me that day when the EMTs came, they didn't even have enough vehicles or enough ambulances to transport everybody that needed to go, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so my thoughts are is we're putting these data centers all over in the city, in rural areas, and when there's a chemical spill like this, we don't even have the resources to treat the people that are affected by it. But these data centers could care less about the actual lives, because all they care about is Tokunoa, or money. Money talks. So humans, we're irrelevant. We're cattle to them. And they just want our data and our money. But they're not taking into account the fact that we do care about each other, and we're not going to just lay down and take this mess. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but okay. I'll get fired up really easily.
It's okay. So to touch base on that, so Mays County can say, we are able to handle this, or we are trained, but they will have to have mutual aid in order for this to happen. Their mutual aid would be Rogers County, basically the surrounding counties, yes. In which each county to get to us, running lights and sirens would take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes for that extra resources to actually kick in to help us. And then, so imagine being hurt, injured like we were, and then waiting 20 to 30 minutes for a EMS crew to show up to actually evaluate you, get you in the back of the ambulance, and then to take you about 45 minutes to an hour away to Tulsa or to Claremore. And then they do have Life Flight. Life Flight can only do one person. There's only one base that's in Pryor that's right there by it. They can take one person, like I said, in the helicopter if they were severe, which, that happened 2 weeks prior to that. They actually had to Life Flight somebody out of there because a pipe did explode and their insides were hanging out and everything. Yes, yeah. And that didn't make the news either.
I wonder why. I mean, the news wouldn't even talk to you.
Mhm.
So we have to go on TikTok and we have to create our own platform so that we can get this kind of information out. So thank you, Organizing Okies, for standing with us and standing with the people, because local news stations, they're bought and paid for. So the gentleman I spoke with earlier too, he said that he was working with someone that day, and as soon as they exited the building, they didn't even realize they were standing in this fog because they'd been in it so long that they didn't notice it. And once they evacuated the building, he said the person that walked out with him collapsed.
Yep, hit the ground.
So this is refrigerant. This is what's in your refrigerator. It's Freon. It's R410A. In small quantities is one thing, but in large quantities is completely different. When I was talking to the gentleman yesterday that was a lineman in Pahuska, when I told him about some of Rebecca's symptoms, like the Parkinson's-like symptoms she mentioned, he immediately goes, "Oh, it was a data center. It was refrigerant, wasn't it?" The lineman knew this. So you know that Google knows this as well as all the other data centers that they're recreating to resell to Google, Meta, and Amazon too. So I don't know, is there anything that you want to add to that?
I know that everybody thinks, it's AI, we shouldn't be on social media, or we shouldn't be doing this, or we're so up against it. But I think the thing about this is the location of the data centers. Like, they need a new location in a certain mile radius, whatever that would be, to build these data centers, as to where if a leak did happen, or these frequencies, how they are harming us and everything. Because I told you about my experience whenever I was out there doing patrols, what happened to me.
Can you tell them about it?
Yes. So whenever I was working as a security officer for my ex-company, for Garda World, whenever I would be on the data floors doing my patrols, literally I started from the bottom, did around, went up, did around, went up, did around, and then came back down. I would not be on my menstrual cycle or anything at the time, but I would have bleeding as if I was. And that only happened if I was doing patrols by those servers. And those servers, you can hear the humming, you can hear the noises, you can literally feel the frequencies. Being inside of these data centers, you can't even wear, like, you have to have special boots to go in there, because static can literally cause an arc. And oh, hey, speaking of that, sorry, this is what I'm talking about, my memory issues. Which if a static arc happens, then it causes a fire. So Google has firewalls, yes, but I need you to realize this. If you are in a room full of data, right, that has, or servers, that literally has all of this electricity going to it, and a arc was to happen, or a server got overheated, set off a smoke alarm, and then the fire sets off all these sprinklers, you're done for, because the doors literally lock. You cannot go out of those doors. And all this water is now going to come up, get onto you, and then you're literally going to be electrocuted. That will be your death, is by electrocution. That was something that I brought up as a security officer, and safety literally laughed at me and said, "Shh, let's not share this information with anybody else."
There you guys have it. They don't care about anybody. Well, and you were talking about the miscarriages that occurred too. So there were miscarriages by employees while they were working there.
Yes. So we had multiple employees who were trying to get pregnant, and then they would have miscarriages. Multiple, like, it wasn't just the same one or anything. It was literally multiple that were having miscarriages out there. Migraines, heart issues, we literally had to create a attendance policy to basically kick people out of the door who kept on getting sick, reoccurring sickness. That's basically how we took care of it, was, they pointed out, because they kept on getting sick. But, once they left, all of their sicknesses and miscarriages stopped.
Interesting. I would love to speak with some of those women who have conceived afterwards too. So if they're out there, hit me up, because I want to share everybody's story. So multiple women with miscarriages. You also mentioned that people would collapse at work and you'd have to call. Okay.
The medical. So they would literally just be doing their jobs. They would be doing a patrol, and then they would just collapse to the ground, hit the floor, and nobody would, or I'm sorry, whenever somebody would come walking by them, because you have to realize that, you know, you're basically isolated in a area, and the cameras are supposed to be watching you, but, you know, the cameras don't work half of the time, according to them. And whenever these accidents happen, and so whenever they come across somebody, you know, who's collapsed on the ground, that's whenever they call EMS, and then they're talking to the person after they come to, and they're literally like, I don't know what happened. I was just walking, and the next thing I know is you're waking me up. We had multiple cases of that as well. And there's a lot of people who are like, I was just doing my job. I have chest pain. I don't know why I'm having all this chest pain. We had multiple incidents of that as well. And nosebleeds, you know, we had people up and, you know, they're like, I've never had nosebleeds before in my whole entire life. And now I'm getting all these nosebleeds. So also, you know, like, I don't know really if I can go into details, but I can tell you that it is not safe to build these data centers. There have been multiple deaths in these data centers being built. And then I can tell you that there have been actual Google employees who have actually died on Google sites. And, you know, all of a sudden these cameras are not working wherever these employees are collapsing onto the ground. And so I can tell you that has happened multiple times as well.
Convenient.
Yep.
Now, this center was a Gatorade factory that was converted and then built on and built on and built on into the second largest Google data center in the US. And this is what the people get that work there.
Yeah.
I have a question burning in my mind. What was like did like OSHA respond to this? And I'm sure everybody else is kind of wondering this as well. What was the response from OSHA?
So I was given the OSHA paperwork of where they started their investigation on what happened. And then after I was given that OSHA paperwork, it was basically shortly after. Nobody else had any more OSHA paperwork, or it just disappeared. And so nobody knows where this paperwork went to or the results of that. I cannot tell you if they got fined for it. I don't know the actual results on what has happened on that OSHA investigation. I can tell you that people have tried to look it up and they can't even find it anywhere. Just like whenever I posted on my Facebook my story about what happened to me, there were some people who were like, hey, this isn't on the news. And then some people actually went to the police station, the sheriff's office, and then to Mesta, because, you know, this is supposed to be public records. And they couldn't find any public records. Whenever I used to work for the EMS company that was there in Mays County, we were told that we could not say Google over the radio. We had to, you know, take a phone call. And, you know, like, and that's basically how we got dispatched out there. And so there was a lot of NDAs that were signed by multiple people who cannot come forward. But fortunately for me, my boss lacked at doing her job. And so I never signed an NDA for any of the construction companies that were out there. My only NDA that I signed for my company has expired. If they state that there is an NDA, it was done electronically, and that was not by my signature. IT has access to my laptop. They could have easily set the date back, and they could have easily gone in there and clicked it for me as if I am the one who did it. I don't have my laptop or anything, but I can tell you that basically I had connections and stuff, have had whatever connections, and on my personal file that I have, that is mine with my ex company, Guard World. There was nothing in there for an NDA whatsoever besides the one that is expired.
Now, you sent a letter from OSHA as part of the documentation, and it reads to me like they basically instruct them how to do their own inspection so that they actually don't get an OSHA inspection. So, like the level of corruption is just absolutely astronomical. I like am dumbfounded in so many ways, but also this is expected from somebody as large as that. Sorry, Michael. This was like thinking about that letter that I was reading, and I was trying to print it off, and I forgot to do that before it came on because I wanted to read it.
Yeah.
It is gross. Let's just say that.
I was just what happened to you and listening to your story. Truly, it's upsetting, and I can only imagine I can't imagine what you're going through. So, thank you for sharing out your story to us. It's
I wanted to add on here too. I know that so Rebecca hasn't been able to get any kind of recourse nominally and isn't able to work, obviously. And are you even getting workers' comp pay? No. So she has no income. She's had to give up her career in cybersecurity now and is fighting with her former employer to get some sort of settlement. So basically, they're just trying to starve her out. And the gentleman that I spoke with earlier today said that they need oxygen at night as well. And they're my age. I'm 47. So they need oxygen at night. There should be no reason that a 41-year-old or a 47-year-old that was perfectly healthy a year ago now needs oxygen at night so that they can continue living. So his workers' comp claim so far has been denied for his oxygen that his doctor has requested. And this is a direct it's a direct repercussion of the company's negligence. So I don't see why these people aren't getting the medical care and the payments that they deserve. He's living off of workers' comp right now, which was 70% of what he was making then. And when I talked to him earlier, he and his wife were in line at the Cherokee Food Bank so that they could get commodities. So they're struggling to make sure that they can feed themselves. And that's not how this should be. So when these data centers come in, this is what you get.
Now, is there a way that we could help support? I know since it doesn't sound like Google's helping, but is there a way that, because we're all about rallying everybody up together, is there do we have a GoFundMe somewhere, or is there anywhere else that we could help you?
If you want to do a GoFundMe, I will not be opposed to that whatsoever. I am just a person that I hate to ask for help. It is. It's sorry. It's hard to admit that something's messed up whenever there wasn't.
It's not your fault.
And it's hard to go through what I went through, and then they literally just laugh in your face. Because they are very anti-workers' comp, and they think that it's just game.
And that people are just cattle that they can use and abuse and kill.
Yes,
pretty much with zero repercussions because they're so big. I'm so sick of the 1%, these corporations. The corporations are not people. And we need to have leadership that stands with the actual people of Oklahoma and not the corporations. Corporations do not matter. They do not count. Because when worse comes to worse, when the shit hits the fan, we're going to be the ones that step up and protect each other, not these corporations. They don't care about us.
Absolutely.
100%.
Sorry.
Well, like Michael said, we're really good at rallying the troops. And so, and of course, we as a team, of course, we're going to chat after this and be like, great, what are we going to do? We're going to get that GoFundMe. Yep. But of course, we're going to get more with Cheyenne. Oh my gosh, we're so excited that you brought this to us, like Elisa said. I can't wait to hear from the rest. All of this stuff, this is a huge rabbit hole. I've got no work done. I just keep going, you just on and on. I'm like, this is so huge. Oh my God. And this is in Oklahoma. This is happening to our Oklahomies.
And all over the country, people
people are like, we do not want these data centers. And the goal is to dumb us down by getting everybody to use AI. So later on, they can sell it to us. We can't think for ourselves. We've got to pick up a phone and ask it a simple, basic question. We're already 50th in education. We don't need any help there. We need to reintroduce deductive reasoning and critical thinking skills back into the general population. We don't need that much AI. And there is no way possible that we are now using that much AI within a year that we need to spring up 10 data centers in northeastern Oklahoma. There are ulterior motives written all over this, and it's for profit. It's not for the people, so it's not for us.
Right. 100%.
Well, and I was looking at just last year alone, 1.1 billion gallons of water resources, and has a permit from the Oklahoma Water Resource Board to withdraw up to 27.375 billion gallons every year. Every year. 27 billion gallons of water. And so you can tell how they have geared it to just massively take over everything. And this is just one center. One center.
And that's going to cause our utility bills and our water bills to go up, or it's just going to deplete our natural resources, like the one they're trying to put into Sand Springs. And I'm so proud of Sand Springs community for working on that recall and that petition, because if I'm elected, I know that I work for you all, or I work for the people in my county. My head does not need to be that inflated, or my ego to think that I don't have to listen to the constituents. And that's where we're at right now. No one is listening to their constituents, so they're not doing their damn jobs at all. So I think that we need to look at that water consumption, because that water is not going to go back into the system. And even if they're saying it's on a closed loop system, it's still going to evaporate just like it would out of a radiator, as the gentleman told me last night. The water in your radiator eventually evaporates, and that water is going to be contaminated that they do run off there. You cannot reuse that. You cannot reintroduce that into the environment. So that I don't see any real positives coming out of this, except for the people at the top are going to make a lot of money, and we're all going to get screwed and sick.
Now, speaking of politicians, Troy Green is requested to come up on here. Does anybody have a problem hearing from Troy Green? Because that would be his. Well, if he's elected into the Senate, right? That's also his constituents. So maybe he can have some answers for us if I can get him on.
Right. Yay!
Welcome, Troy.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We got to see your face this time. We know you got the followers. There we go.
I did it right this time.
Couldn't pass that up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you for allowing me in. I just got in a few minutes ago. I hadn't forgotten about it, but I've been super busy. I've got some people coming in from out of town and trying to deal with that. But I've been listening for about 15 minutes or so. And this is something that we've definitely got to get a handle on and figure out how we protect the citizens here in Oklahoma. I know these things have to go somewhere. I've had this conversation before, but again, we've got to look at cost versus reward and how it's going to affect the citizens here first and foremost.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And this is a pretty egregious case too, when you talk about what happened. Not just that the leak happened and was leaking for, it sounded like almost 24 hours before it was, recognized as such, but the egregious treatment. Now, I think on the video or the interview that you had done with her, y'all talked about out of roughly 15, 16 people, both treated in hospitals and at the scene, only 3 are still employed with this company.
I think maybe 3.
Somewhere around in there.
I've been out of that position since January. I don't know if they are still currently with the company.
So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts on this one, Troy. Sending you up to DC, hopefully. And now, from a federal standpoint, is there a way to introduce and maybe get past like a moratorium on these things until, because the laws are in place for all these corporations to follow, right? We have OSHA, we have all these things. they're just not being enforced. So from a federal perspective, how could you possibly help?
Well, the Trump administration is actually easing regulations across the board. Where in regards to climate change and EPA and different things. So that's step number one. But I agree that there needs to be a moratorium until more studies are done and we find out the cost of this on human lives. They think that one person's voice isn't going to be heard. And listen, we've been, throughout the industrial age, we've been through all this before. Through, different chemical spills and things with the oil and gas industry too. But again, this is something that we just don't know, and we don't know what we don't know until it's too late. And we have somebody like this lady here, who's paying the consequences. And a lot of studies need to be done on this for sure.
And I do know that presently there's, I believe, a House bill up for a 3-year moratorium within the state. But I do also know that, what Troy is saying, they are not regulating Bitcoin. It's pretty much like the wild, wild west right now. Absolute chaos at the federal level. And Oklahoma, of course, needs a lot more organization as well, too. So I'm glad that we have other people out there fighting a good fight as well. So thank you.
We need more people in there that actually give a damn.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's about the people.
Yes.
Yeah, this story can't end on this live. I think everybody that's watching, I think we share this out on Facebook, YouTube, share this story out. It can't end with just this live. And Shay for bringing this to us, and thank you, Rebecca, for sharing this with us. It's I can't tell you how it's just. I got chills the whole time you were speaking.
Right.
And hey, Rebecca, please reach out to me, and because I need to hear more about this since I missed part of this tonight. I'd love to hear the whole story anytime you have time.
Absolutely. Troy, I think I have your number. You want me to share it with her if I can?
Yes, ma'am, please.
And then if you guys want to do a GoFundMe, she said she's not opposed.
Okay.
I wouldn't have time to properly manage it, and I don't want any hands on it. But if you guys want to do it, I will help support you and spread the word all over the place.
Likewise.
All right. Rebecca, again, thank you so much for coming on. I know that was a lot. It brought up a lot of feelings, and we really do appreciate you sharing with us. So please take care of yourself. Do some self-care tonight. I would send you some Epsom salts, but please take care of you. Please take some time just for you to decompress, because that was really heavy, and we really appreciate you coming on. That's a lot. And of course, we hope to see you again, and we'll continue to keep up and all of that.
And before we go, Rebecca, I just want to ask you, being the one who's experienced all of this and facing all the impacts of this, what would you like to see happen with not just your case, but the data center question in general? Like, what are your thoughts, or what would make you whole? You're never going to be whole. There's no way to make you whole after this, but what would you like to see happen moving forward?
Honestly, I would just like something just as simple as an open apology for what has happened, how my life has been ruined. That would mean a lot. And then, since I will not be able to basically continue the life that I want it to continue, I just hope and pray that there's going to be some type of settlement as to where I can live comfortably for the rest of my life. As far as data centers, honestly, I just want research to be done that is proper research, more than one person or company doing it. So that way it's just not one-sided. And just watch their checking accounts, bank accounts, to making sure that they're not being paid off. And for the cities to actually come forward with the actual results that they're actually getting. And for cities and for everybody to know that, money, you can't survive basically without money unless you just go off of the grid.
You can't do that if you're sick.
Exactly. And so, I mean, everybody says you only get one life to live. Being in the medical field, you know, like that's so true. You only get this life to live. And nobody actually realized how much value life has until you're literally faced with a limited amount of time. I mean, granted, we're all given a limited amount of time as it is, but we don't know when it is. But now to know that you have all these illness and sicknesses and permanent damage that is happening to you, it really puts it in perspective. And so I really want everybody to think, you know, what if these are your kids, your parents, your loved ones that this has happened to? Like, what would be your perspective of how close you would want a data center to you?
And you've lost quality of life, really.
Mhm.
And the
Yes.
gentleman I was talking to earlier, he couldn't even unload the groceries out of the car.
It's a simple task. Simple task. Like whenever I cook dinner, I literally have to sit down to chop things up. Like whenever I clean my house, you know, I have to go to plant-based things. Like I literally had to change my lifestyle versus just to literally live and to breathe. And it's not fair. You know, I used to run marathons, running events with my dad. We used to do all these things together, and I can't even do that.
So basically, you've been robbed of your life.
All that quality time with family. And it's not just me, like my relatives too.
Yeah.
They're
So-
being cheated.
Because you can't have the same relationship.
Very good answers and very reasonable for everything that has happened in this and how you've been treated. So thank you for that. We'll be in touch. We'll have a meeting about how we can go about doing that to help you, you know, maybe get something coming your way so that you're not, you know, completely destitute while you're, you know, fighting this beast. And so we'll get with you about that after we held our meeting and figure out all of those next steps for you. And if you need anything in the interim, yeah, we do a lot of mutual aid. We have a couple of greenhouses in Tulsa, one in Claremore, Tulsa and Rogers County. And so, you know, if you need some produce coming up, we're gonna have some food being produced there real soon. Anything that we can do, you know, obviously to help you, please let us know and keep us posted. Maybe come back on as it progresses and let us know how it's going.
Just know you got some people in your corner.
Here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We are
Don't lose heart.
Thank you guys so much for sharing and taking her story when no one else would talk to her. So I truly appreciate that because it helps me help other people, and it really does take a village, and you guys are a part of that village too.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so
Yes.
much. We're really honored.
Most definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
I think I'm
Hump
I'll
Day
let her get-
Exchange. Thank y'all so much for coming on and talking to us. This is very important. We've been trying to get, you know, reporters ever since you brought this to us to jump on board with us and make this happen and get some attention going. We did have a few folks in our in the comments that are more national who are also helping us, you know, get the word out on this too. So as soon as we get done here, I'll shoot you the link to the live, and then we'll get it downloaded and on YouTube so that we can get that shared out. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for this very special and very important conversation about our data centers.
I also want to thank the candidates for being on here because you're real. Like, you took the time to take an actual a constituent and to bring them to us and say, this is wrong, so that we know in her area, woo, Moore's got us. And we know going forward, we got Troy or Jasmine. Either way, I think we're good. Love Troy.
Yeah, I don't.
But that's real. I mean, this is what the people need to see. this is what I need to see. I need to see that you're actually going to be for the people and that you're actually going to listen for us because we need you. We need representation. So thank you for that.
And the question is, anybody here taking APAC money? I mean, we've interviewed both of these candidates, and I got to tell you, not in a lifetime.
You know, they're like,
And we love them. These are some of the grassroots candidates coming out of Oklahoma that have answered the call. And I mean, really, we're in a tight spot here in Oklahoma. I don't know if people realize how bad it's gotten here. And it's been an all hands on deck. And these two amazing human beings are two of the people who have stepped up and said no more, you know, and have really just been go-getters and have been actual leaders. So I believe leaders go first. You know, they set an example for the rest of us to follow. They don't tell us where we're supposed to be going while they hide in the bathroom because of bone spurs. Just saying. And these are two people I trust that they're not going to lead us anywhere. They're not willing to lead themselves. So appreciate both of y'all so much. And Rebecca, thank you for your vulnerability.
Troy, who's behind you?
That's my wife, Mindy.
Okay,
Oh,
just
he's
checking.
finally going to meet the wifey.
I was like, wait, what's happening back there? Like, we've met the granddaughter, we met the granddaughter's friend. Now we get to meet the wife.
She's
Love
a 20-year nurse. She was listening to all this and taking it all in.
Oh,
So
wow.
if she watches the whole video, she can really get the whole thing and see the big picture too. So we'll get it over to you, Troy.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And thank you for everybody who came and listened. We really
Yes.
appreciate you. Couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Bye.
Thank you guys so
Bye.
much.
Take care,
Happy
Rebecca.
April
Bye.
Fools. And this was not
Not
an
an April
April
Fool's
Fool's joke. Go ahead, Shay.
No, absolutely not. Bye.
Bye.